Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to ITHive.org Saturday Morning Tech Show. Episode 19 we're up to now, so we're getting there. One day we'll be at 100. It's been a busy week for me this week, and I wasn't really sure what I was going to discuss today, but last night I was just had some quiet time and just rejuvenate from the week that I had, and I was just looking into some of my competitors and former work environments that I had been involved in, and just looking at what customers were saying about them. And I came across a story that, was a reminder, not that I'd forgotten, but, there's a whole reason why ITHive.org does what they do. And this story underlined it tenfold. And I've seen and been involved in these kinds of situations many times, and that's why we do what we do. So just a summary overview so everybody knows where I'm going with this is the complaint. It was like this person took a long time to write almost a novel on this company, and I understand both sides of the story being involved. So basically, a tech came to do work on a computer, and they weren't sure initially what the true root of the cause was, right? And I'll get into more detail with that. And anyway, they spent a lot of time trying to solve the issue, and probably more time than they should have. But I'll, again, talk about that a little bit. And in the end, they didn't catch the problem right away, and eventually they caught the problem, and the solution to fix that problem was somewhat more expensive. And so the client, of course, didn't want to pay all that, right? And let me just talk. So this situation went on, for a few days, and a big bill in the end, and all that stuff, right? And I'll talk about details later. But to flip to the ITHive.org scenario, one of the reasons I do not take one-off customers is that I do not know what's been going on in that customer's world. I don't know what they've been doing with the computer. I don't know what has happened to the computer from a technical perspective. And it's very hard for me to support that, right? And, I have worked with lots and lots of techs, some very good, some not so good, some horrible. But no matter, even the really, really good techs I've seen get stumped with a problem, right? And not see the issue right away. And it's easy to do. I've talked about this before. We're all sold the notion that technology is easy and it's nice and it's free and it's going to liberate our world and all that stuff. But, technology is stupid. It's just a machine, okay? And it does stuff. It doesn't think. It just does things, right? And, some technology better than others, granted, for sure. But when there's a problem, it's really hard to find sometimes, and it can be elusive. And I think one of the most challenging issues is when you're dealing with a problem that has maybe multiple problems, right? And you're walking in there cold and you don't really know what's happened. So you kind of see where I'm going with this. So the ITHive.org difference is the whole reason that I form, or my company forms, a relationship with the customer is twofold, right? We get to understand the human elements in the business or in the residents, behind the technology, right? What things they do, how they do, their level of education, their level of comfort with the technology. So there's a real relationship that's formed there. And not only that, from a technical perspective, because we're looking after the technology and we get a history, we understand things like, we know things immediately. Like what the warranty state is, the health of the system, what it's happened in the past with the computer, all that stuff. So when it comes to helping the customer, there's a lot of things we don't have to guess at, right? Or even figure out. We just know it. So very often, my customers, ITHive.org, they call me and they have a problem or whatever, and we're fixing it, 20 minutes, 5 minutes, no 6-hour jobs, right? Now, there can obviously be exceptions because, it is technology and sometimes things get elusive, but still, I'm still with this here is that there's a lot of things we know already, right? As opposed to, having nobody regularly look after you, and then you have a problem and you call somebody to come in and fix it, it's going to be an issue, right? And I don't care how talented the person is coming in to help you, right? They could get stumped, right? And so here's the thing. So if you have, if they say, well, we're going to, we're only charge a fixed price for a service call and whatever, that's fine. But, how does that really work behind the scenes, right? Because at the end of the day, when somebody is doing work for you, and if it's fixed price or not, and the time is ticking away, right? And they spent, unfortunately 6 hours trying to fix something or whatever, right? If they're not getting compensated in some way, right? Well, a couple of things: the business will die, or that tech will leave, right? And that's the harsh reality of things. So, anyway, so a little bit more details of the story. So, the complaint was that a customer had an issue with their computer. The tech came in, initially thought it was a virus issue, and it could have likely been that, pointing signs of a virus, right? And viruses can cause all raft of issues, right? So I don't know the specifics on what was done to try and solve the issue or address the issue, but anyway, he spent 6 hours on site. So, this poor guy who was there trying to solve it, and whether he's doing the right job or wrong job or whatever the circumstances, probably trying to do the best for the client, and, misdiagnosed, or maybe he had two problems, like I was saying before, a virus issue and hard drive issue failing. And he missed the hard drive issue, right? And it's easy to criticize in hindsight. I get this all the time when I find that needle in the haystack, and I'm like, oh, why didn't I go there first, right? But like I said before, it's a lot easier for us to do this now because we can rule out a lot of things, right? And there's a relationship. And I think that's the underlying message here. The relationship makes all the difference. So anyway, 6 hours, and then finally he gets, the hard drive's bad, right? And then, he tells the customer, well, I can replace the hard drive. Tomorrow I'll get you a new one and fix it. Well, I don't know if the proper expectations were set, but the customer was expecting to only pay $300. Well, I'll tell you right now, to replace the hard drive, just replacing the hard drive would maybe cost $300, pretty cheap, because the cost of the drive has to be in there as well, and then the time to do the work and stuff, it's time consuming, right? And then if you factor in the fact that the fellow was there for 6 hours, rightly or wrongly, before that, right? Well, that's just it's not sustainable business for the person doing the work. And, I just don't see how that works, right? So really, I think the day is numbered for, and I'm really trying to get this message out here. If you think you can run your technology and then just call somebody when you need it, right? Well, you're making a huge mistake, and all you're going to get is frustration there, because there's so many things that can happen. The thing, and I've mentioned this on previous shows, the thing with technology is it can have issues and it can have problems, but they might not directly exhibit themselves. One of the underlying factors, and it relates to this story, that I opened and started the business that I have going, is that you need to have some history on machines to properly service customers, and not just technical, but like I mentioned before, from a human perspective too. You have to understand your customer really to give them the support that they're going to expect, right? People, they don't want they want answers, right, to what's happening. They don't want somebody coming in. Their expectations is that we come in and do things, and we're gods, right? We work in the tech sector, and we can just look at a machine and ESP say, oh, that's the problem, and then fix it. Well, that only exists if there's a relationship, right? If you're walking in cold, and any smart tech would realize this, if you're walking in cold to look at a machine without any history or anything like that, right? Well, it's going to be difficult to solve the problem, right? So anyway, and that's the difference, right? That's why we have a membership, and that's why if you have a machine and it needs to be supported, right? We put it in a plan, and we create that plan. We start with a base plan, and then we customize from there to meet the individuals or the company's needs, so that the financially and support wise, for the people, for the technology, all that stuff, everybody's needs are different. We set it up to reflect the actual needs of the customer, right? But we have base underlying technologies that must be there in order for all that, everything else to exist. And from a tech perspective, when I have a customer call me, with a problem, or I'm calling them and saying they have a problem, I don't like problems, right? And I don't like problems that linger, right? I like to see a problem, solve it, get it done, move on, right? And if I'm not doing that, that frustrates me, right? So everything we do and moving forward as this little enterprise grows, right, I will instill this on everybody, that everybody does this, is to provide convenient service, intelligent service, and service with human understanding, right? I will not have any frontline tech people talking to customers that can't talk to customers. And don't take this wrong, all you techies out there, but some of us can't talk to people, right? And it's a strange thing in our industry, and that the more brilliant a tech you are, the less likely you can talk to people. And I get that, and I understand that, and I think it's good to have good techs on board, right? But they need to be positioned in a place where they can actually be most effective, right? So that's I think the world. So we continue to do what we're going to do and improve. But when I read through that story, I was like, it was just another reflection for me that that's why we're doing what we're doing here, right? To change the landscape and the education. I think the biggest hurdle out there is people's understanding of what tech support is, what tech support could be. And unfortunately, there hasn't been enough good cases out there to change the mindset of people. And we're trying, one customer at a time. We're working on it, and we're we're educating people, and we're giving them the support that they would expect, right? And on a monthly basis, right? So that's that. We're at 15 minutes, and I always want to try and keep these at 15 minutes. So that would mean that we're done. So anyway, I hope you all have a good week coming up and a good weekend. And we will see you next Saturday at 10 o'clock. And bring your questions. I'm more than happy to entertain any questions during this show. And we'll see you next week, 10 o'clock Eastern on Saturday. All right. Signing out. Have a good week.